We're good.
Okay. We'll call this meeting to order. We'll go through the agenda. The first item on the agenda is roll call and disclosure of conflict of interest.
Stuart Ward,
Present. I have a business relationship with the applicant on agenda item number 4 and number 5, but it will not affect my decision tonight.
okay. Barbara Hill,
Here and nothing to disclose.
Edward Orr,
Here and nothing to disclose.
Okay. And we have a quorum, barely, but we do have a quorum. Item agenda number 2, agenda clarification and approval. Any changes to the agenda that we need to?
Chairman, Council, Hal Jensen, Planning Director. Pleasure to be with you this evening, and no changes to the agenda recommended to approve as outlined.
I move to approve the agenda as outlined.
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. No minutes to approve tonight, so we'll jump right into public hearing. Need a motion to open the public
I
hearing?
motion we open public hearing items.
I second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, before we move on to those, I have something to read. So everybody's on the same page when it comes to the public hearing. The public hearing procedures are as follows. A presentation will be made by the applicant with a time limit of 6 minutes. An explanation of the subject of the hearing is presented by planning and development staff with no time limit. Testimony is given by the audience in favor of the proposal, then in neutral of the proposal, and then against. Questioning of the participants and rebuttals are entertained by the Planning and Development Council. Each testimony is limited to 3 minutes. The applicant may rebut the arguments offered by the opposition, and the Planning and Development Council will discuss the subject. They may direct questions to the staff, the applicant, and the audience during the stage of the hearing process. The hearing is then closed to oral testimony from the applicant and the audience, and the hearing process is concluded. The council accepts oral testimony and may accept limited written testimony from those in attendance, but only if the parties have filled out the testimony sign-in sheet, which is in the hallway, if you want to fill one out. If you've submitted written testimony as part of the packet, you can also give an oral testimony. You cannot also give oral testimony unless it is to read the written testimony into the record. In order to keep a clear audio recording of the hearing when testifying, please come up to the podium, state your name, full name and address. Comments will not be accepted from the audience seats, and discriminatory testimony shall not be permitted. There should be no booing, hissing, or cheering. In addition, if you're here tonight and you're angry, that's okay. Please don't take your anger out on the council members. They are charged by law to keep a clear record of the proceedings, consider factual testimony, and uphold county and state rules and regulations. Thank you for the courtesy. Is there anyone who does not understand this process? Okay, perfect. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item number 4, which is a variance. Jeremy Manska requests a variance to reduce right-of-way setbacks from 50 to 35 feet, and side yard setback from 20 to 15 feet for one residential accessory structure. The affected property is currently addressed as 2625 West Old Highway 91 in Income. And we will be evaluating the variance based on the zoning ordinance and code 540. So applicant, please.
Jeremy Manska with Westwind Construction. Address is 1655 North 2nd Avenue in Pocatello. We are requesting a variance on the setback for the front yard setback along the right of way and on the side yard setback to the west. Our request is based on site constraints. This is really kind of the only location where we can put this structure. It's intended to be a garage. I'm not sure what else to say.
Okay.
Aside from that, so you guys got any questions for me?
I know it's a kind of a long skinny lot and there's lava cliffs kind of in the back.
Mhm.
Where does those actually start in relation to the house? Is it about where existing is, or is it way closer to the
I
house?
think it's back, kind of where it says existing structure, that text, I think is where the cliff starts. Is right in there.
Somewhere right in there. Okay, so about halfway
Yeah.
down the site. Okay. Okay. Any?
Now, I'm just confused because the address that it says on here, when I pulled this up earlier, it came up with the address next door. Yeah, if you click on that,
265.
then go to the one next door.
2623.
Okay, that makes sense then.
Okay.
Other than that, no, I'm very familiar with
Okay.
that ground and digging in it.
Barb, do you have any questions for the applicant right now?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We might call you back up if we have questions.
Okay, staff.
Staff report, Hal Jensen, Planning Director, Bannock County. It's a pleasure again to be with you. Real quickly, you've had my staff report previously. I will go over a couple of items, more specifically item A. Based upon the physical size of the lot, the mature growth and existing residents, there's no other alternative. I make that statement for the simple fact that it is not Bannock County's desire to force somebody to cut down mature trees just to provide access to get to the back of the property, because that becomes, you know, a viable solution within reason, and especially paying attention to the property adjacent. If you'll go back to, Marge, if you go back to Mr. Manska's site plan, you'll notice the property directly to the north. Just the adjacent
The Larson.
storage or garage structure is closer to the road as well as tighter to the property than what the applicant is requesting. So in assessing this, we don't see that it quote unquote has an adverse reaction or anything relative to the adjacent properties. And it's a difficult site, it's a mature site. It makes no sense to start taking all of that mature growth out of there, and just so that we could justify an ordinance to push a building to the back of the property.
Okay.
Any other questions for me?
I didn't see any staff recommendations.
Approval?
Just approval, yeah. No conditions.
No conditions.
Okay.
Okay.
It's very, comment, very straightforward.
Okay.
The request makes sense and has done the best that they can. We could require them to push it all the way back against the face of the house, and that is not the applicant's desire. They would like to use the area, I'm assuming, to develop potentially a courtyard, some sort of a front yard, something that makes sense between two structures as opposed to 3 feet between 5 feet between structures.
Excellent.
Okay.
Obviously, this is the reason why we have this council.
Right. Barb, any questions for staff?
No, I have none.
Okay. All right. Public testimony. Don't have anybody signed up for this item. But is there anybody that wants to speak in favor, neutral, or against this item? No? Okay. Anything else you want to bring up? No? Okay. All right. Let's go through the findings then. Okay. Okay, number one, the applicant has shown there is not a reasonable alternative. This is based on the
Geographical,
the geography of the
geography
site,
of the site.
the geography of the site and the, for the staff report, the mature growth trees that are on the site. I need to be writing this down? No,
No.
Hal's typing. Okay, good.
Are we allowed to say, in the next one, of course, you keep typing and we talk about this next one. Are we allowed to say in there, based off of neighboring properties having sheds / garages closer to roadway and property line?
I think that would go to number 3.
Okay.
I mean, it could go 2 or 3,
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Should have asked, is there any comment from Road and Bridge?
I did not, I'm sorry, Kyle, I did not ask you. But do you have any issue with this, being that close to the road?
Kyle Burmester, Public Works Director. No, I think Mr. Jensen did a fine job on what it is. I think they've tried to do everything they can for the site.
Okay.
This is based on, due to the width and depth of the site, the contours and slope of the site, and the mature growth of landscaping on the site. And the site is very restricted in its physical developable area. Okay.
Okay. Number 2, the variance is not in conflict with the public interest. There was no public comment.
No public comment or opposition. And
And Road and Bridge has no,
yeah.
no
And
concerns.
Road and Bridge has no concern. I believe it's simple because we'll get to the other one, other part of that, the next one.
Did you want to use the adjoining neighbor on this one as well?
I think the other two are fine for right now. We'll just say that for the third one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. You ready for us to move on, or do you want to read us back what you wrote?
There was no public comment. County Road and Bridge approved.
Okay. Number 3, the variance will not adversely affect adjacent property. This is based on the neighbor having a similar shed even closer to the setbacks. And this proposed shed or shop garage, whatever it is, will be hidden,
Will not be visible.
yeah, will be hidden from view with the trees.
Not that our goal is to hide
Right, but
structures.
Anything to add, Barb?
No,
Okay. Just wanna make sure you're not left out.
I appreciate that.
Okay. This is based on the adjoining neighbor to the north. Has an existing structure that is closer to the right of way and the adjacent side yard than what is requested by the applicant.
And I would just change that out to the neighbor to the west,
Yep.
Oh,
not to the
I
right.
forgot that's rotated, sorry.
Yeah,
Top of the screen is always north.
right.
Okay.
There's no house to the north anymore, is there? Is that the one that burned down?
It's trailer park, I think.
The trailer park's to the north
Yeah,
side.
trailer parks are on the north side.
Okay,
Okay. Number 4, if the variance is not granted, the applicant will suffer undue hardship caused by the physical characteristics of the site.
Due to the expense of navigating the geology, removal of mature trees,
And the slope,
and the slope.
in the back. Slope and boulders.
this is on the record. Damn, where's Tristan?
Shouldn't have given her the night off.
There is no other buildable area on the site behind the existing residential structure. The applicant will be able to meet setbacks if not granted, and undue hardship undue hardship would not be able, that's poor language. The undue hardship would be that the owner could not construct the new garage.
That sounds fine to me.
Sounds good.
All right, ready for a motion?
I think we're ready for a motion, yes.
Okay, based on the record and discussion this evening, I move to approve the request by Jeremy Manska, representing Tom Nestor, to reduce the front yard setback from 50 to 35 and the side yard setback from 20 to 15 in the, for one residential accessory structure in the residential suburban zone as described by the applicant materials and supplemented with additional information attached by staff report according to the testimony received, and adopt the proposed findings in order for signature by the chair and the vice chair.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Stuart Ward,
Yes.
Edward Ulrich,
Yes.
Barbara Hill.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Perfect. Okay,
You guys are welcome to stay, or you can leave. Doesn't matter.
they got the next one too.
They got the next one,
They
okay.
got the next one too, so.
I should have read it.
Okay. Agenda item
I'll call you tomorrow.
number 5. Is a variance as well. Jeremy Maska requests a variance to reduce the rear yard setback requirements from 20 feet to 10 feet and side yard setback from 10 feet to 7 feet for one residential accessory structure. The affected property is currently addressed as 14961 Hamilton Lane in Chubbuck, 83202. Applicant.
Jeremy Manska with Westwind Construction, 1655 North 2nd Avenue in Pocatello. On this variance, we're essentially following what has been accepted on the same street and in the same subdivision. I think, I'm not sure what phase this subdivision is, but I think the first 3 phases of this subdivision have been going through this variance, and then the 4th phase has now have a blanket easement for the setback requirements. We're merely just following what the city of Chubbuck setback requirements are. Yeah, do you guys have any questions for me?
So remind me, we've done variances in subdivision before, correct?
Yes.
And what was the reasoning for it?
The county, so this subdivision will be annexed into the city of Chubbuck
Sure.
at some point. The county setback requirements are wider than the city, so all the residents out there basically want to follow the city of Chubbuck.
That's fine.
Is the way I understand it, so. And,
We see a lot of these, so I can't
yeah.
remember.
And is that what this is, Hal? Is that the,
That is correct. That's the resolution for, I believe, I
phase
want to say phases, is it 4 or 3?
4 through 8, it
Yep.
says?
Yep, so you're correct. 1, 2, and 3 do not have the blanket easement that was granted. So we've probably done 6 to 9, and some have been as close as 5 and 5, 5 side yard, 5 rear yard in a couple of respective instances.
And you're obviously requesting more than even what that is.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Okay.
I don't think I have any issues or any questions, right now, so. Any questions, Barb?
No, I have that.
Okay. Oh, you got on. Sweet. Hi.
I didn't want to interrupt, so I'm gonna hang up.
Okay,
You know, when you say hi to the screen, she's just looking at the back. of
I
your
know,
head.
but still. I want to look at her face when I say hi.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. I don't think we have any more questions for you. Okay. Staff, anything to add?
Hal Jensen, Planning Director. You've had the staff report. We've had some previous conversation prior to staff report. I have nothing else to add. This is in keeping with previous councils and previous actions in the subdivision and other requests.
Okay. And if I'm reading this thing right, this blanket setback for the remaining phases allows rear yard to 5 feet and side yard to 5 feet for residential accessory structures.
That is correct.
Okay.
Can we just write down this? Can we reference this document in our findings to speed that up?
We can, but you have to go through the process of the deliberating.
Yeah, of course, yeah, check.
We still have to go through each of those 4 items, is what
And
you're saying?
if you wanted to, you could use those
Yeah,
deliberations and reference those as part of your deliberation process.
Okay.
is this? Oh, okay, we gotta have public comment
Yeah.
first, okay.
We're getting ahead of ourselves here.
Yeah, that's all right, I just knew that, yeah.
Okay. Barb, any questions before we go to public comment? Okay. Again, I don't have anybody signed up to testify on this one. Is there anybody in the audience that wants to speak on this item? No, okay. All right. We'll go into deliberation and findings then. Make sure I'm on the right one. Yes, okay.
Page 56 of 131.
Yep,
Okay.
yep. Okay. The applicant has shown there is not a reasonable alternative. I don't know. What does this say? So these are the findings from 2021 when this blanket request came in.
They're the same questions.
Same questions, yep.
Let's use those.
Says, this is based on staff findings, size of the lots will be, size of the lots will be annexed in the future, fits with city lot size and development. That's what it says.
You want me to hand those to him? We can, I'll read them to you when we go through it, and then he can just copy them, right?
Yeah, I think we just change that to fits with city lot setbacks
Okay.
and development.
Instead of size, we're gonna say lot setbacks.
And I wonder if on all of these, we should add that there's been multiple already in this development that have,
You can.
This is based on the development to be annexed into the city of Chubbuck in the future. Previous requests have been granted in this phase of the subdivision for setback and meets the required minimum setbacks of the city.
perfect, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Number two, the variance is not in conflict with public interest.
It says what is being requested is in line with the city of Chubbuck's
City of Chubbuck annexation.
per annexation.
Yeah.
This is what happens when you don't have development agreements between two government entities.
You can write that as your reasoning.
I made a comment, I am not allowed to deliberate, but I can counsel you on your language.
It was on the record either way,
I
so.
don't know. It's there now.
I think a lot of these are gonna be almost a copy paste.
The next
Because
one
of,
is too.
well, just because of that.
That's the thing, yeah. The third one should be pretty easy.
Right.
Okay, what is being presented is in line with the city of Chubbuck setbacks. In previous discussions between the county and city for development of this subdivision, meeting a more urban setting. Okay,
Perfect. For number three, right?
Yep.
The variance will not adversely affect adjacent property. I think again, this is based on other properties being granted variances, similar variances. And
Like, yeah, it follows the precedence of what's been done in the other phases
right,
and meets City of Chubbuck setbacks.
right.
That was not useful for ours.
No. Yeah, because this one applicants get to go over.
Other properties in the subdivision have had similar requests, and they've been granted. No public testimony was received against this request.
Perfect. Okay. Number 4, if the variance is not granted, the applicant will suffer undue hardship caused by the physical characteristics of the site.
If this is not granted, the applicant will not be able to share in the benefits that the other residents have been able to share in. Does that make sense?
Yeah. In future phases or other
Yeah.
other variances that have been granted. I think the applicant stated something similar in their
Application.
application. Yeah.
The owner will not be able to experience the same permitted development of their property that others have previously been granted.
Perfect. Okay. Anything to add, Barb? Okay.
Once again, no conditions,
No recommended
approval with
conditions.
no conditions.
Okay. Okay, I'm ready for a motion.
Barb, you wanna do this one?
So based on the record and discussion this evening, I move to approve the request by Jerry Vincent to reduce the campus ground and setback from 20 feet to 10 feet and the side yard setback from 10 feet to 7 feet for one residential subdivision and one application.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Stuart Ward,
Yes.
Edward Ulrich.
Yes.
Barbara Hill.
Okay, motion carries 3-0. You're good?
Yep,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you.
Do you have your application in for permit?
On Nelson. First one. On
Okay.
Ohio.
All right. There are 10 days for appeal. As soon as that's done, we'll move forward with all of the other paperwork, and then once, if there's no other appeal, we should have it for you. So you're about 10 days out. Okay, thanks.
Perfect. Okay, agenda item number 6 is another variance. Bonnie Hanson requests a variance to reduce the stream and riparian area setback requirements from 100 feet to 78 feet for one residential accessory structure. The affected property is labeled or is currently addressed as 12113 Fish Creek Road in Lava Hot Springs. Applicant.
Eric Nichols, my address is 12113 West Fish Creek Road. And what we have there is the barn, it would be the northeast corner of the barn is approximately 78 feet to the closest point on the creek. If you go 12 foot in, 12 foot to the west on that barn, it's 119 feet to the creek. And 122 feet to the creek to the far west corner. And so we're just trying to get an exception there on that one corner as the barn gets further away, you know. That is just the most forward corner.
And that barn's gonna sit right above your circular?
Right below my round pen there, yeah. Yeah, the existing barn that was there that we lost 2 winters ago when we had that bad winter was only 53 feet off the creek. So I moved it back another 68 feet, which put me at 119 feet dead center, so.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can still see part of the old structure that's there on that picture.
That's just kind of northwest of the arena there?
Yeah.
Right here?
Yes.
Okay.
And one other thing we didn't put in our drawings is from that northeast corner, it actually rises approximately 4 feet to the edge of the creek. It's rising that direction.
Rising up towards the creek.
So everything kind of slopes 2 directions in there. It slopes from the south towards my round pen because it's straight hill back behind me. And then it slopes to the west from the east. So that space between my barn and the old structure there's, I want to say it was like 43 feet, right? Between there. And it actually rises another 3 feet to the creek below us. Everything slopes to the west, so.
Gotcha. Okay.
There are pictures.
That's the Salts campground. I just put it in there as reference of a variance that's been granted for the Salts to have the riparian setback exempted.
Go back to that other one. Marge. No, the one, that one. So this new barn is gonna sit between the trailer and the round pen? Right
Yeah, you're probably looking at close to 100 feet there between the trailer and the.
But somewhere in that area,
Yeah.
that's kind of the general area, that
Right,
gravel,
yeah,
that gravel
I'm
area.
within about, 10 feet of my round pen there.
So we're talking, okay.
Right next to it, right underneath it, and where that tree is there.
Yeah.
And the riparian area is on the left side of the picture there.
Yep.
So you can actually see the rise.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I don't think I have any more questions for you. Do you have any questions?
I don't, I'm good. Mark,
Barb, do you have any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you. Okay, staff?
Hal Jensen, Planning Director, Bannock County. You have the staff report in front of you. One of the items that comes up in this, we asked council to deliberate based upon, I've got to get my bearings on this real quickly. So in item A of the staff report, which would be page 64 of 131, staff does make a comment that features do limit the buildable areas. However, there are potential alternatives closer to Fish Creek Road or the east of the dwelling at the end of the driveway. And we asked council to please deliberate. Staff recommended denial only as a precaution for you to be aware that there are potentials, and whether or not this makes sense as presented by the applicant.
So that would be on the other side of the round pen, on the hillside, basically next to the house. Which to me isn't very practical either, because now we're asking them to, I mean, you see what they had to do to get their house level. You can imagine if they're trying to set a barn in there, they'd have to cut into the side of the hill and probably also to fill where the bushes are.
We also have
Go
our
back.
septic and well.
Will you go
Our
back?
septic system is
Your
on-
septic's back there
on the
also?
east side of the
Okay.
house.
Yeah, go right there. So if I'm understanding you staff, Hal, sorry,
Yes,
this, you're thinking, or you're saying that there's potential at the very end of the driveway over here?
yes.
And there is, my foundation, the corner of the foundation to the nearest point on the creek is 100 feet.
This right here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Which would then put them in,
Into the,
Right,
we'd have a
period.
variance there too.
Right.
Okay.
Where's your well?
Just up in the, right straight above the round pen there, you can kind of see
Oh,
there's,
right
little yep, right there.
So that also limits it there, put it where the round pen is.
Okay.
I'm good.
Yeah, we're kind of linked
Okay.
with the mountain there.
and based upon information that was provided, staff did not have conversation with the applicant to flesh out what you just asked. So therefore, the comment of denial, however, applicant has stated the reasons why. As you deliberate, you will want to deliberate on those particular items.
Okay. Okay. And this is we're just talking riparian area on this one, correct?
Yes.
No side yard or anything like that? Okay.
And we've had a number of these hearings where we've talked about riparian area, and it's kind of that, it is, you know, we want to hear, is there any opposition to this one?
No,
No.
this one
Okay.
is in support.
Because I was gonna say before we start talking about that, we see what,
There
yeah,
are-
but the riparian areas, most of these is kind of a general swath through there. And that's why, you know, on these in the past, I've had no problem moving a little bit into that riparian area because of that reason. There's no like set dead center, middle of the creek, 80 feet from each side, right? And a creek can move, so I mean, that's
Right.
what that's where I've not had a problem with these, and that's my opinion, but.
Yeah, I think in, the other hard part about this part is there's no floodplain right here either. But you go 500-600 feet downstream and there's floodplain there.
Well,
And then there's a whole different issue with riparian stuff in
Yeah.
floodplain. So.
and it's very inconsistent depending on which creek and which river or whatever, because, you know, like myself, I'm 87 feet off the river, but there's no riparian area. So I didn't have to, you know what I mean, when I built my house, I didn't have to mess with that. And then some places it's floodplain, some places it's both,
Right.
and some places it's just straight up riparian area, so.
Right. Okay. Okay, public comment. If
Would you
we're-
read the name and read that into the record, please?
Yes, I will. Just want to make sure there's no other discussion. Barb, you don't have anything you want to bring up? Okay. Okay, I've got one person that has filled out the form. They are in support of the application. This is Lola Smith, 1223 East Fish Creek Road in Lava. Supports, does not wish to testify. But states, we have no problem with the building of a barn on their property and the requested setback.
Thank you, Lola.
Okay. Is there anybody else in the audience that wants to speak on this item? For, against, neutral? No. Okay. Okay, is there anything else you guys wanna bring up?
The only thing that I think got left
If you'll
out.
come up and state your name and address, sorry.
It's gotta be on the record.
Bonnie Hanson, address 12113 West Fish Creek Road, Lava Hot Springs. The only thing that I don't think got addressed is the power. We don't have any power on the other side of the creek. We actually had to have a power pole put in to get power on the side of the creek that we're requesting to build a barn. At this time, we're not planning on putting electricity to it, but eventually we would like to. So
Okay.
if we're not able to build on this side of the creek, then we would have to have a whole nother meter and connection and everything on the other side of the creek where the power is.
And the other side of the creek is open space, or
Yes.
most of it is at least.
Yeah, in fact, it's, almost all of it is designated as open space for the recreation
Okay.
ordinance.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Discussion. Anything else?
I kinda already voiced my opinion.
Okay. Barb, you have anything you wanna bring up on this one? Okay,
I would like to point out, too, that, trying to put it as close to the place as the original barn was as possible. So it's not like we're trying to redesign and redraw their entire plot and, expand on what they had before. I mean, we're trying to replace a structure. We're trying to probably do it as cost effectively as possible without, and so,
Right.
I'm sensitive to that, so.
yeah. Okay.
Was there any conditions?
The only condition, recommended condition on this one was, let me go back to it. Submission of an erosion and sediment control plan that ensures sediment does not enter the nearby waterway at time of construction.
It'd have to go over a berm, but yeah. Okay.
Yeah, by way of clarification, erosion and sediment control is required at time of building permit application. It's already built into the process. If you wanted to
Gotcha.
go down the path of a condition, you can, but it's already.
But it's already
It's already
required
built
per
into the
ordinance.
Mhm.
Okay, okay. Okay, ready to work through findings then?
Yep.
Okay. Number one, the applicant has shown there is not a reasonable alternative. This is based on the terrain of the site. Behind the house is a hillside, location of the septic, east of the house, and the
Location of the well.
location of the well, and the only other property is, viable property is across Fish Creek Road
Which is
in open space,
Which is not developable.
which is not developable. Yeah.
Got all that?
Yep.
You're a fast typer. Yeah.
And location of the power, okay? Okay. Shit.
Okay. This is based on, the applicant has shown there is not a reasonable alternative, and this is based on the slope of the site. A different location will require owner to develop new electrical service to that site. The property directly to the north is dedicated as permanent open space, and Fish Creek runs almost in the middle of the developable area.
Okay, number 2, the variance is not in conflict with public interest.
I would say the variance is to replace an existing building that is, or a once existing building, and we've got no opposition from neighbors and 1 in favor. I assume Lola is a neighbor.
Yeah, we're right there in that small lot, right in the center of their lot.
Right, you're in the key holdout.
Right.
Good. And you've been here before, right?
No,
On another hearing?
no.
No?
But this has been a really interesting civics lesson, and I appreciate that.
Encourage your neighbors to come out.
You pop popcorn, I'll get it here.
Sorry, I probably just violated public record rules by chatting in the middle of this.
Okay, I am still taking care of some items on item number 1 and cleaning up a couple of items in the language, so, okay, the variance is not conflict with public interest, and this is based on
Replacement?
joining
Yeah.
neighbors testified in favor, no other
Opposition.
testimony received in opposition. Anything else?
That sounds good to me.
Yeah, the only other thing you mentioned was that this is replacing
Yeah,
a
you might
previous
want to
structure.
mention it's replacing a previous structure that's lost in
And I put that on number 1, that's what I was
Okay.
expecting.
Oh, gotcha, okay. Okay. Number 3, the variance will not adversely affect the adjacent property.
Has no effect on Jason's property. It's only a variance on the riparian area.
And the
With-
adjacent properties in support,
Yes.
or one of the adjacent properties is in support, I should say.
Okay. Adjoining property owners testified in favor, and the request is for setback from riparian area only, which has no bearing on adjoining properties.
Excellent. That's exactly what I said.
Word for word. Okay, number 4, if the variance is not granted, the applicant will suffer undue hardship caused by the physical characteristics of the site.
There is no alternative.
So, yeah, I'm gonna take and copy clip number 1 into there and also put that, once again, because Fish Creek runs through the middle, you have very limited opportunities from the riparian area into the buildable area, so they're requesting to encroach because of that.
The only
They would
option
have
is
to
to
do-
do no building.
No building or decrease the size. Okay?
see if this copy clip will work.
Real quickly, was your old structure closer and infringing more into the riparian area than what you're requesting now?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect.
Do you want us to know how far?
Because you did mention how close that one was.
The old building, the face of it was 53 feet off the creek, and now we're at 119, till that one corner.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, slope of the site, a different location will require owner to develop new electrical service to new site. Property directly to the north is dedicated as permanent home space. The Fish Creek runs almost in the middle of the developable area. And the new structure is replacing an old structure lost to heavy snowmelt. The new setback is less than the original building setback and is a viable solution for the construction of the size of the barn. If the setback is not granted, the owner will have to reduce the size of the proposed structure. Does that
Okay.
It's good.
meet the intent of your discussion?
Yep. I think it does. You agree?
So, yeah.
Okay.
You agree, Barb? Okay.
All right, I'll give you a motion.
Okay.
So based on the discussion in the record, based on the record in the discussion this evening, I move to approve the request by Bonnie Hanson and variance for the minimum stream riparian area setback in the recreational zone as described by the application materials and supplemented with additional information attached in the staff report according to the testimony received, and to adopt the proposed findings in order for signature by the chair and the vice chair.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Stuart Ward,
Yes.
Barbara Hill, Edward Ulrich,
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 3-0. Perfect. Thank you.
Don't abandon me, I'm not sure if we can do that here.
Do a just a, when you finish this, I want to.
Yep.
Do you recess? 5-minute recess or 10? Do you need 10 minutes, Hal?
Yeah, 10 will work.
Okay. 10-minute recess. We'll be back here at 6:30.
Public Works are on here.
Okay, we'll put that. I did say 6:30, so we've got a little bit more time. There she is. Okay. Alright. Barb, you ready? Okay. You good? Okay. Okay, agenda item number 7 is another variance. Christopher Parrott, requests a variance to reduce the stream and riparian area setback from 100 feet to 60 feet and the right-of-way setback from 30 feet to 15 feet for one residential accessory structure. The affected property is labeled parcel RMCA 002000 and currently does not have an address. Applicant. Will you time, please? Yep.
Hi, my name is Chris Parrott. I'm the resident at 9803 West Carla Drive, which is the property just adjacent to this lot. We're looking at building a structure. We're still in the planning phases of this, pending how this goes. But that would be the maximum size that we're looking at, which would be a 25 by 35 foot structure. It's pretty flat in that area where I've got the yellow drawing, but it's very steep coming off the roadway, then it's flat for a bit, then it drops off again as it goes down toward Campbell Creek. Those are the measurements from the corners of that. We're trying to keep it as close to the house as we can, which we live in that structure right below there, which also down another rise, so we don't have to walk too far to get there. And there's just not a lot of space with both being very hilly in that area and trying to, maximize the riparian and setback off the roadway there. Don't know what else really to say about it.
Do you know what the setback distance is from your house to the right of way and your house to the creek? Because look from the pictures that it's less than these.
It is, yeah. The house was built like in 78, I believe. Yeah, the corner of the house to the road barely meets that 55 feet total with the road setback or whatever, yeah. So, and then from our back deck there to the creek, it's only 61 feet. But on this new one with, current variance, looking at trying to maximize how far away we are from the creek, which is really only like this wide.
So you're either pushing closer to the road or you're pushing closer to the creek.
The 2 points, if you go by the letter of the law, those 2 points actually intersect. There's not a point at which you could meet that 55 feet and the 100 feet that is required.
Which means it renders your property unbuildable.
The rest of the property is all, like, if you're looking at it, it's a very steep hill directly from basically the edge of Campbell Creek coming up toward us. And then there's another hill, then it's flat for like 45 feet, and then another hill, and then the roadway. I think I attached some other sort of site pictures trying to give, was that the only one I put in? There we go. You can see how it kind of drops in off the road. Then it's flat there where we do the structure, which is kind of behind that gated area. And then it drops off again going to Campbell Creek. Then you can see the very large hill on the other side going up. So there's no spot.
And the large hill on the other side is not buildable.
Yeah, it's no, you could not build there.
It is extremely steep.
Yeah, and then you would still be closer to the creek trying to build something on stilts there or something, a James Bond house or something, but.
Which would not.
So you're talking 55 feet from the road. Tell me, because the setback is only 30 feet from the road.
So I was doing it's like 25 feet from the center of the road is the road.
Gotcha. So you're 55 from the center of the road.
Yeah, 55 feet from the center of the road, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I was trying to look at that full measurement and then, yeah.
Okay.
So, and I did some overlays and some images to get a better view of the creek, so I kind of used a couple different years off the GIS and sort of overlaid them on my little thing there, but
Marge, will you go back to his drawing with the building and set and the dimensions?
then I highlighted the creek because I could see it in that other image that's actually from a different year, and then I drew where the creek actually was. And then I tried to measure in pretty straight lines the best I could.
What would that setback from your property line, not the center line of the road, but from that property line to the corner of the building be?
Hold on one second. Let's see here, gotta go to an image, bear with me a minute.
Yeah, because that boulder wall's well within his property.
Yeah, let's see here. The road setback goes right to the top of the little boulder field, basically at the point of the 4.
Yeah, no.
It-
Mr. Parrott, for language of ordinance,
Sure,
from your property line.
okay,
Which is quote unquote edge of right of way.
okay.
What is that dimension from there to the corner of the building?
I don't, kn- let's see if I've got that one written down. That was. That was 35 feet,
That's 35 feet.
yeah.
From the right-of-way line to the building is 35 feet.
Correct, yes.
What is
I'm looking at a picture I took of the tape
Well,
measure.
if it's 35 feet, then you're 5 feet over what you need to be.
That's
Right, so there's no setback needed for the right-of-way. So variance needed.
So I went off the total distance, and this is where I might have made the error, that it had to be 55 feet from the center of the road before I could lay a brick. And that distance is really only gonna be 40 feet. So that's where I need to get that
We need,
variance.
we need
It's
to,
just 10
we
feet
need to
off.
rewrite that language when you make your approval, because it's measured from his property line,
Right.
which is the edge of the right of way. There are properties in Bannock County where the property goes to the center line of the road.
Right,
This is not one of those properties. This actually has a property line with a formal right-of-way on each side. We are measuring from the property line, not the center line of the road. So, Mr. Parrott, you have the opportunity to be 30 feet from that right-of-way line to the side of your building, which would, for all intents and purposes,
Give you 5 more feet.
give you 5 more feet
Oh, okay.
to
Okay.
65 feet. Now, it works in your advantage. We just need.
Sure, yeah, I was going off, I thought I had to measure from the center of
As
the road.
council deliberates, they need to create their language accordingly.
Understand.
If they move to approval, they'll need to go down that.
Can we approve it with 60 feet minimum or more?
Yep.
And then encourage him and his builder to move that as far, to the edge of the roadway to buy him. I mean, it could even be
Yep.
7 feet, 8 feet, whatever the maximum he can get out of it,
yeah, we can say no closer than a certain
60
distance.
feet.
Right,
So that's what I would recommend, and then we approve his right of way
Correct.
as it is, and then that gives you plenty of room, and it actually gives you a couple feet to wiggle there,
And
right?
for clarification of the request, you may want to say to meet the minimum setback of 30 feet along the right of way, something along those lines.
and question for you, because he owns both parcels,
Yes.
the common line between those two parcels, he still has to maintain setback there?
Not unless he wants to encumber those properties, which he does, so, no.
So the garage could shift closer to the house.
It could, but based upon the physical features, it needs to go uphill because of where the current driveway, et cetera, is, so that he can,
That's like some mowed grass, that's technically not
so
really a driveway.
to give you enough room to develop that driveway to get in and out and et cetera. You could if you wanted to, yes.
if I try to move the building closer, it also drops off toward the house, so there's not much room there. When I first had a contractor kind of looking, he was like, we don't want to get too close to here, because then we'd have to reinforce this
Yeah.
hillside and stuff, and I was like, well.
That
I
was
don't
my
really
next
wanna-
question. So
Yeah, I didn't wanna
between the
get-
two lots, there's an elevation difference.
There is, yeah, there's going up the road there, up Carla Drive, and then of course up toward the hillside, yeah.
Okay.
So we're
Well,
trying to get relatively close.
here,
Yeah, that's pretty
there,
steep between the two homes, yeah.
There's,
Yeah, you look down on top of the roof of that other, on top of my house from up there.
oh, gotcha. So there's significant
Yeah,
elevation.
it's a pretty
difference.
significant,
Okay.
yeah, I don't know exactly like how high up it is, but I can definitely see all the way across the top of my roof from up there.
Okay.
Appreciate that you put as much thought into this as you have.
Yeah, I mean, I would have put
Helps
the
us
other
to see.
measurements to the house, I didn't think that was a factor, or I would have also broken up, I thought I had one where I'd broken up the measurements from the road to the, because I first measured out, because I didn't know where my property line was, so I did like the easement of the road, and then I went from there, but that's to the little creek, that's the Campbell Creek, it's not very wide, I can straddle it.
The language needs to state 30 feet from property line, and it's Mr. Parrott's responsibility to verify where that property line is.
Okay.
And the current code says that you have to be, is it 30 or 35 feet from the property line?
30 feet.
30 feet.
It's a local road, so it's 30 feet.
So if I was asking to reduce that, because what I try not to do is push the building too close to that next drop off also, which would then have to be reinforced. So it's kind of narrow in there where,
You're shoehorning it in there.
yeah, right, yes, it's
So
a fair amount of ground, but not a lot of space to put anything.
And based upon this discussion, your formal request at this point is for setback from riparian area.
From riparian area,
Oh.
that, and my measurement showed that if the building is 25 feet deep, then I don't meet that 30 feet to the road, because the two measurements together are 40 feet. So 25 feet coming off the road, then 30 feet. I don't meet the 30 feet. That,
So the
so the center of the road is 25 feet, and then,
FYI, ignore all of those dimensions, literally ignore them, because this is your right-of-way, right here.
The road's not
And the
there.
road is not centered in the right-of-way. You want to measure from your property line, period,
okay, it's not pinned, I don't know. I
30
mean,
feet.
Edge of road.
So I can just
Not
say,
edge,
where
not
where
edge
the
of road.
pavement ends, I can just drop a tape measure?
no.
No,
You gotta
No,
be
it's
careful
gonna be
with
your-
that
You'll
line.
you'll need to get it surveyed to verify where that right of way line is, so that you can maintain that 30 feet from that.
Okay,
And
And-
and you're, I believe you're in a subdivision,
yes.
and so there should be pins there. But you may need a surveyor to go out there and help you find them.
Okay, but per the request, I'm asking to reduce that distance, can we do that, or can that be looked at, not can we do it, but can that be evaluated in this, or do I need
So
to do this?
the-
if you would like to request it to 25 feet from 30 feet, we would need to change the language.
So he's requesting how from 100 to 60 on riparian and 30 to 15 on roadway setback, right-of-way setback,
Okay.
per the
Instead of,
application.
Yeah, I mean, unless I filled it out incorrectly, which I'm not trying to be confusing, sorry.
FYI, Mr. Parrott, I'm concerned about the language and how it's structured. Because you're showing 40 feet from edge of asphalt to the building, and that road is in no way, shape, or form in the center line of that right of way.
I did not use, it's not to scale, I drew a line and then gave the actual measurement. I tried to draw a line on there, I'm not an architect, so I used the imagery and just tried to drop a line to the measurement. I mean, I can show you images of
Is
me
the
measuring.
40 feet from center of road,
The 40 feet is from the center of the road. to
from
that
the center
building.
of the pavement?
From the center of the,
Current center of
I
pavement.
measured the width of the road, I cut that in half, I then dropped a tape measure from there and ran all the way to where I thought the corner of the building hypothetically could go, and that distance is 40 feet, given 25 feet width for the building, and then
Then that-
distance to the waterway.
That language then does make sense in the application.
I wasn't sure, sorry, I didn't know I needed to break it down. I thought, like everyone talked about, like the width of the road, so I thought I had to take that into account.
I'm assuming that staff in the maps helped generate this language. Okay?
I don't have any more questions. As long as we can get those numbers right.
Yeah.
And so that would be the condition that I would agree to is verification on where your property line is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then at the verification of property line, you're asking from property line,
Which
15
which
feet.
would be right away.
which would be right away, to 15 feet on that front.
And like I said, we were going with like the biggest, but we may make it smaller, but we didn't know how this process would go, so we didn't wanna like get a contractor and buy a steel building and then have you guys say, can't be that big, you know? So we were looking for like the biggest building and then look at compromise from there, so.
That makes sense?
Okay.
So it wouldn't be bigger than that, that would be about the max I think we'd want anything, but, you know, obviously we're flexible in regards to how big it is, so. If I contact like a surveyor to come to find where that, and then we just need to know that measurement from there, do I need to resubmit this application then?
No, it would be a condition of approval if we.
Oh, I see,
If
okay.
we approve it, then that would be a condition. So when you put in your building permits, you would need to have that site plan from the surveyor to staff so they can verify that you meet the setbacks.
Gotcha,
And
okay,
therefore you fulfill that condition.
gotcha, okay, yeah, that shouldn't be too hard to do, I wouldn't think.
So,
But yeah, I walked all up and down there trying to find some sort of a marking, and I just assumed that the white lines were the difference between the overlay and, yeah, I was just like, well, that's not really right.
Because they're underneath the asphalt.
Yeah, right, yeah, everyone said there should be a marker in the center of the road, I was like, okay.
That one I would say is, them lines that are on these maps are not very close. That one being a subdivision and actually surveyed out as the road area and everything, I would say the road is pretty close. But you still kind of need I think you're gonna need the variance of 15 foot.
Yeah, I think that would have to
Closer than
be, yeah, reduced, yeah.
If you're thinking.
Okay, so
okay.
we've worked through that then. Barb, did you have anything? Okay.
Okay, thank you. We may have more questions. as we
Okay,
go
yeah,
ahead.
thank you very much.
Okay. Anything else to add, staff?
No, you had the staff report. If there's questions relative to the staff report, you will recognize that there is recommendation with two conditions. One is denial, or that you place a condition that all construction adheres to IDEQ's best management practices for protection of runoff to the water feature.
Okay. Is that different than the previous application? This is a different,
This is.
because the other one was erosion control, this is something separate.
This is based upon a letter that came from IDEQ.
Gotcha, okay,
The other one was strictly riparian, and so it wasn't
Correct.
the same. Yeah.
okay.
Similar, but not the same.
So in this one, we would need to add that condition.
You would
Because
want
it's
it-
not
You would want to
included.
add that condition, yes.
Find where that condition went.
You'll,
There it is.
and as a comment, you will find that those conditions are not much different than what you typically see for typical erosion and sediment control.
So, right now we're talking about the condition that you've got there of the, any and all construction shall adhere to Idaho Department of Environmental Quality Best Management Practices would be condition number 1. Condition number 2 would be identification of property line, a surveyor, through a surveyor, correct?
Along the road frontage.
Along road frontage, okay.
Okay, I don't have anybody signed up for this one. Did you guys want to speak on this item? No? Okay. All right, anything else you wanted to add, Chris?
I don't think so, no,
Okay,
thank you.
okay. Okay. Any other discussion before we go through findings?
I'm just trying to think of the language that we would put, because if we do if we do a setback at 15 feet, if we approve a 15-foot minimum on the front, then I guess that's what we have to do. We have to put a minimum on the front and the back. Because if it's 15 feet, I mean, obviously, if he builds on the 15-foot side, that could only be a 70-foot setback on the back for riparian area. Or vice versa. If he decides to hold the 60 feet at the back, he might end up with 25 feet off the front property line.
Right.
So we just need to set the two minimums, and then he's gonna have to play with that with the surveyor and with his builder to figure out where within that envelope he can, it's a tight envelope either way.
Right.
He's pushing on one or the other. So do we even need to state that, or we just grant the variance for the two numbers he's asking for?
In your discussion, we've pretty well stated what the concern is and why. But in that conversation, it also, you just stated that it gives him a buildable area and flexibility once he gets on site with his conditions, gives him flexibility to move one way or the other without infringing on 60 feet or 15 feet. So.
And I think it's been pretty well established the reason why we're doing it, and the geographics of the topography of the lot is impossible other than having variances. So. Another riparian one, there's nothing he's gonna be able to do to get out of that riparian area.
No, it's a pretty unique piece of property with that way. The one west of him's even worse,
Yeah.
so. Okay. All right, you ready to go through findings then?
I am.
You ready, Barb? Okay. Number one, the applicant has shown there is not a reasonable alternative. This is based on
Aerial view, pictures, and topography of the lot.
and the fact that the riparian setback and the road right-of-way setback overlap each other.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else to add, Barb? You're awful quiet tonight. Yeah, but you gotta correct us if we're going stray. Very true. Okay.
Without granting variances, the property has no buildable area between the road and the creek, and there is no buildable area on the property on the other side of the creek due to the steep slope. The required right-of-way setback and riparian setbacks cross each other in conflict, leaving no buildable area.
Perfect. Number 2, the variance is not in conflict with the public interest. There was no public,
Opposition?
there was no public comment in opposition.
And the use is fitting with the adjacent properties. And we wait for number 3 on that.
Do you want to use that number 3? What did you say that?
That is also fitting with the adjacent properties. A fitting use like the adjacent properties. But we can use that as number 3.
Okay.
Will you read what you have on number 2?
Okay. The desired use conforms with other adjacent properties and similar uses. Okay,
That was number 2.
that was number 4, or number 3.
Number 3.
Number 2 is there was no public comment in opposition.
Okay. So number 3, the variance will not adversely affect the adjacent property because,
Renders, without setbacks, or without variances to setback, it renders the property unbuildable.
Is that what, are you talking about 4 now or 3?
4.
He wanted you to read 3.
Oh, 3.
3 one more
3,
time.
yeah, read 3 one more
3,
time.
the desired use conforms with other adjacent properties and similar uses.
Perfect.
Okay.
Now 4.
Okay. If the variance is not granted, the applicant will suffer undue hardship caused by the physical characteristics of the site.
The only option is not building and not having a secondary structure.
And without variances, the lot is rendered unbuildable.
Yep. Perfect.
I mean, literally, it's
Yeah.
because the other side of the creek, yeah, it's that creek is so steep that it would never comply with county ordinance because of the steepness of the slope. It is, for all intents and purposes, rendered unbuildable
Right.
by ordinance.
Okay. Okay, then we talked about a couple of conditions.
So I wrote these down. So the condition number 1 in the staff report was, let me read it here. Condition number 1 is any and all construction shall adhere to the Idaho Department of Environmental Quality's best management practices, BMP. Yes, BMPs. Because they don't want us to just quote what page it's on, correct?
Yep.
Anymore?
And the other condition?
The other condition is a survey identifying the front property line at roadway.
Can I not just measure 25 feet off the roadway and call that my property line? I have to spend the money to have a surveyor come out and do it?
Yep.
Okay. Anyone else have to do that?
We do,
Because they had the measurements from the white line and they were good to go, so if I had a measurement from that white line, I would have been fine, maybe.
which white line?
The white line that is supposedly my property line right there, if I just said, if my black line went to that and gave you that measurement, we might not be having this discussion.
I think if you knew where that white line was on the ground, out on your
I
property,
do know where it is, it's 25 feet off the center of the roadway, is where it is.
it's probably not though. That's what we're saying.
That's what we're saying.
The road is probably not centered in the right of way. So in order to know exactly where the right of way is, you need a surveyor out there to tell you that. You can't measure just center of the road and call it good.
Unless you can
So
find
I
a
could
can.
potentially build even closer to the road than that then. This way, so the way this could work out in my favor, I could be even closer.
It could work out in your favor.
It could be
once it's
closer to the
identified.
pavement
Yeah.
than what but it's not closer to your property line. Your property line is the right of way line, which is this white line here. And that's the one you need to know on the ground
Exactly.
where it is. From a
Yeah,
survey.
if they survey it and it moves it closer to the middle of that road, then obviously you benefit, because now,
Right.
right? But especially when you're talking about this hilly terrain and you're moving these roads, they build
Yeah, I'm
these
just
roads.
not happy that because suddenly I have to spend like $500 or $1,000 to have a guy tell me where the line is, because you guys don't know where it is either. That's frustrating to me.
It's not
not
the
on
county's job to know exactly where your property line is though.
That you delineate my property line.
No, the county does not delineate the property lines.
It just happened.
This is a map, a GIS map of your subdivision plat that was created by a surveyor and overlaid on imagery, but the two don't always line up.
Okay.
And so you can't take the imagery as gospel in relation to those white lines.
Well, I'm just curious, like listening to the other people that were doing it, they had measurements that weren't questioned off of, had to be the exact same type of a situation. So I'm just curious why I'm being penalized to need to provide this information when the last 3 people didn't have to do that.
The other ones had,
They had a surveyor team come out and tell them exactly where the lines
they
were.
had maps that told us where those lines were based on survey, yes.
Okay. I'll review that in their application, that's public record.
Okay.
Second condition, you've got that one already?
Nope.
Survey identification, a survey identifying the front property line at the roadway.
leave this to, some flexibility for Mr. Parrott. Right-of-way property line shall be verified by owner or surveyor by locating existing property corners and pulling a string between points to verify line.
Is that better?
I don't know, sure.
If you find the pins, that's what he's saying. If you can find the pins,
I'm not gonna
he'll,
find the pins.
he'll accept that.
Those pins were put in like 1970. I don't think they're there anymore.
1960.
But that's fine, whenever it was done, yeah.
Because then, when we come to verify setback for what's granted by variance, the inspector can
Yeah.
pull off that line and make sure that it meets where it needs to.
Okay.
So, Hal, let me ask you this, based on his concern, which, now that I think about it, the very first application tonight, they did not, their map was not as good as the second one, if that makes sense. There's not a survey on that first piece that we looked at.
They are granted 35 feet from right-of-way line, from their property line.
Right, but what his concern is that we didn't require them to go get that surveyed as a condition tonight. And I understand, I'm just, what my question is,
We don't need a condition, but if I don't have anything for an inspector to verify
Right.
against,
and that's where I'm getting at, is, so whether we put that condition in there or not, when you guys go out to inspect that setbacks are met, you're gonna need to know where that line
I
is
want
on
to
the
know where
ground.
that line is, because I'm not
So-
going to approve them to pour concrete until I know where that line is, end
Right.
of discussion.
Right, so whether we put that condition in there or not,
You're gonna require. it
it's
anyway.
you're gonna require the property line is delineated
So we can,
somewhere.
we can strike that condition, but either way, because I mean, you're.
Either way, it's gonna be required by staff.
FYI, we are granting, or you are granting, a variance from a property line.
Right,
When I go to send an inspector to verify that, if I don't know where the property line is, I'm not doing an inspection, and they're not gonna pour
So,
concrete.
so we don't,
He
we
has
don't,
to do it regardless, whether it's a condition or not.
okay, so
And
let's
that's-
just
and
strike the
that's
second
Giving
condition.
Mr. Parrott the advanced notification that this has to be resolved
Okay.
before he moves
Right.
forward,
And-
regardless. one
and I
way or
just
the other.
wanna make sure that it's clear that it's gonna be required either way,
So we don't
whether it's
need-
from him or any other application tonight,
That's
that
correct.
it's going to be required by staff when they go pull a building permit and go to pour concrete, you're gonna ask for that
So the
verification.
first one had a map, and they were pulling from the property line off of the map. They were pulling from the right-of-way line. Mr. Parrott is pulling from a center line of a road.
Right,
Not good information.
right, okay, just wanna make sure it's clear for everybody, is
So,
all.
so we can strike the second condition, because it's gonna be required.
I think so,
Okay.
yeah.
So let's do that.
So we'll just
understand?
have the one
We just
condition.
have the one condition.
Sure, yes, I understand.
Okay.
That I should have measured from that white line.
That's okay. All right. Are we ready for a motion?
I think we are, yes.
Barb, you wanna do that, or you want me to do it? There's only one condition,
No, we're not changing the numbers, Barb. Everything will read just as it's
just as
presented,
it,
Correct.
as the application.
as the application.
Okay, do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Stuart Ward,
Yes.
Edward Ulrich,
Yes.
Barbara Hill.
Okay, motion carries 3-0. Okay. Perfect.
Okay.
You okay?
So the next thing I need to do now, so I'll hire a surveyor to figure out where the property line is. Then from there, I've got, you just approved that I can go 15 feet from that, which
Yep, correct.
maybe I'll go more, okay.
Correct.
Right, and then the other variance, and then we'll see actually
Or-
what sort of lays out.
Or 60 feet off the back.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, yeah,
So-
whatever, I mean, it might be more than 15 feet, I went worst case scenario for that.
Yeah, so your closest you can get is 15 to the road and 60 to the creek. Then you have that area in between to play with.
Perfect.
Yep.
And then, can I do that at the same time I like do a permit for the structure, or does that need to be submitted separately?
That information just needs to be verified so that when the inspector comes to make sure that you
So
meet
where
that
it's
setback.
gonna happen, I can be like, here's this that says where it is. Okay, I don't know how that really
Yeah.
works, so
That need, they
they'll
need,
provide me
they
some
need that
documentation.
reference. And you'll want that reference before you dig a hole for your foundation.
Sure, yeah, of course. Obviously.
But I would encourage you to go roughly where those corners are and dig around. You might be surprised, you might find a piece of rebar. You might, I mean,
It'll give you a reason to go buy
Is
a
there
metal
a way to
detector.
know what piece of rebar, I mean, I'm not trying to sound stupid here.
mine is a piece,
Is it like labeled or something? I mean, because we've done.
mine is from 1962, and on the front corner, there's a 1/2-inch piece of rebar that is,
There's just something in there.
and I
Okay.
dug it out.
All right.
So,
well,
I mean-
I'll see what I can find, with no luck so far, but, okay, all right, well, thank you.
You have a reason to go buy a metal detector now.
Another excuse, yeah, exactly. All right, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Cheaper than a surveyor.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Even
okay,
Sorry, Stuart.
it's
That's okay.
It's well spent, it's my.
that's all right. Okay, that's the end of the public hearing. We need to close the public hearing.
And I second that motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Alright.
Aye. Okay, agenda item number 8, items of interest.
Tomorrow is a interview with one candidate for a council position. And then on Tuesday of next week, we will have, I believe, 6 others.
6 more interviews?
6 more interviews. There
Oh,
are
wow.
7 that have been applied for, and council or commission is interviewing them and will make recommendations. We will anticipate that we will have 2 new council members in place for the June 5th meeting.
Oh, sweet.
Upcoming hearing items, we have 3 items on the special June 5th meeting. We have 3 items of subdivision and 1 business item, I believe. I'm not sure. And other than that, I don't have anything
That's
else.
June 5th, right?
June 5th.
June 5th, that's what we decided on.
These are all subdivision.
And then Ed and Barb, for your information as well, they are anticipating potentially 4 recommendations and asking 2 to start now and potentially 2 to start in September after your terms complete in August. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
And that is it, items of interest from me.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Agenda item number 9, citizen comment. Either of you?
I walked in late and did not see a sign-up sheet, so I don't know if I'm still permitted to make a comment. If not, I won't, but if I am permitted.
Are they not out there anymore?
Are there not any out there?
There are some for the agenda items, this is,
Oh, yeah, so you can use that same one, because the public comment period is an agenda item. So if you still want to say something, you're welcome to come up. You have
Come up, Rich.
You have 3 minutes, and then we'll have you sign the paper.
If you don't mind, I'll do that first.
What first?
She's gonna fill it out.
Do the paper.
fill one out for you too.
Just kidding.
You got a captive right here, so you can say what you wanna say to them. You can't leave and go anywhere.
It's already booked up to.
3 minutes.
I'm just gonna use that to it, so he knows. It's not about any business tonight.
I'm just gonna have all four of them, just click on each one.
And then we'll sign it. 3 minutes, yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Good?
just a second. You got 3 minutes, so let me make sure we get the timer started. Okay.
Rich Phillips, 331 North 13th. I am coming to the end of a 4-year term serving on planning and zoning for the city of Pocatello. So I appreciate what you guys do here, and I guess I want to start by saying thank you. Someone was asking me about my experience with planning and zoning recently, and I said if I never get yelled at by an uninformed citizen ever again, it would probably be too soon. So again, I appreciate what you guys do. I understand a little bit about the experience. I came tonight after presenting for a variance, asking for a variance at last month's meeting. I noticed the agenda was all variances, a lot of setback variances tonight, and so I came. And after my experience in last month's meeting, I expected a bloodbath. I saw something very different tonight. And I'll just elaborate on that a little bit. When my request looked very similar to, and I know I'm not lining up with the agenda items as it is on your agenda, but requests number 1 and 4. I asked for almost identical setbacks. At that time, I was told or asked to provide a survey for a very similar reason to what Mr. Parrott was struggling with tonight. I had not prepared a survey, and I was told that that was a burden of proof that fell on me. I also brought up the fact that the slope was substantial. I was asked to provide a topography study, something else I didn't hear tonight. I mentioned that the cost to redevelop the land to be able to support something that aligned with the current code would be prohibitive. I was told that that did not constitute an undue hardship. I heard all of those things presented tonight, and no one batted an eye at it. So I guess what I'm doing tonight is complaining to you guys about the inconsistencies that I saw at last meeting and what I saw tonight. I appealed because I think that other things were done incorrectly as well. So as you guys know, it's going to go before the commissioners and they could deny it. They might feel that there's no further review necessary, or they might kick it back out to you guys to look at again. I will come more prepared, and I will be the first to admit that my application was underprepared, but I don't think that it was any less prepared than what we saw tonight, all 4 of which were approved. But I would just ask that it be treated with the same standards, and I am out of time.
Okay.
Thank you.
I appreciate the feedback. Okay. Next thing is to adjourn.
Yep.
We'll adjourn the meeting.
Okay. Let me.
Thanks, Barb. Okay, sounds good.